everyone, it's Judy Warner. Welcome back to this week's Ecosystem Podcast. So glad you can join us again this week. Do you know what you get when you cross an EE that's doing complex PCB design with a video camera? You get our next guest, Robert Feranec. Did you know Robert Feranec has amassed over 7.5 million views on his YouTube channel? And he's also trained tens of thousands of more through his platform that he founded, Fedevel Academy. We're going to talk about the man behind the training, how he came to make that transition from design engineering into training, and why he thinks online education is so critical today. He's also going to give us a sneak peek of a new platform he's developed called the Fedevel Platform. He's making a home for other experts besides himself to host content so he can have a home for lots of good paid training by experts all across the industry. I hope you're going to really enjoy this conversation with Robert. A quick shout out to our sponsor, Signal Integrity Journal, Keysight Technology, and our newest sponsor, TransLine Technologies. I've put links to them below, and thank you to them for making this podcast possible. I've also put links below to Robert's content, and also please go over and sign up to a hopefully vibrant community that I'm developing at the-ecosystem.com, and you can download some free resources from Dr. Eric Bogatin. Thanks again for joining. Now let's jump into our conversation with Robert Feranec. Hi, Robert. It's so good to see you. Thanks so much for joining me today on the Ecosystem Podcast.
Hi, Judy.
It's so good to be with you. And I hope that our listeners are really going to enjoy this conversation, which is going to tell us a little bit about your personal journey to going from a complex motherboard designer into a really well-respected PCB and hardware development engineer. So why don't you start there and give our audience a sense of, if anyone doesn't know you, which is hard to believe, but give a brief overview of your background from university to your professional background, and then how you started Fedevel and what is Fedevel?
Okay, so first, at university, I learned all the theory, but I was lucky we had like practical project, and so even I was still at university, I have got some practical experience in designing PCBs.
Mm-hmm.
Then I decided to stay and do PhD study, but I've got really good offer from a company, and I decided to leave the university and move to the real world of designing boards. I had no experience. I had experience with simple boards, but
Right.
it's like it's not professional design. I
Mm-hmm.
only had some kind of like building. I call it usually usually I say it's big difference between designing for yourself or designing as hobby or something and designing professional boards. So when I joined company, I had no idea how to do it professionally, but somehow we found a way. And I was very lucky. I was designing boards running operating systems. So I learned how to design some complex boards. And based on my experience in this company, I was able to find a really good job in the UK, where I was designing even more complex boards like Intel i5, i7 boards, Intel Atom boards. And then I decided to leave company and try something by myself. I wanted to do some freelancing. I tried it. I it's not like I think it's not something for me.
Right.
And then by accident, I basically started teaching people about how to design boards. So based on my previous experience designing motherboards, by accident, I started teaching people about how to do it. And that's
So,
basically what happened to me.
so When you talk about when you first left university and you started designing professional level boards, was that a company where you had mentors and people that could help you get up to speed, or did you just kind of have to learn your way through? Like, what was that experience like from going from doing, say, senior capstone or projects in university to building complex, professional PCBs?
No, there was basically no hardware department when I joined the company, and it was actually two of us. It was me and a friend of mine, and he was my friend at university. So we both
I
were
see.
same age, and we had no idea how to do it properly. So we went through all the kind of mistakes what we could do, and I think probably the most common. I think there are some kind of mistakes which everyone will make, like I don't know,
Yes.
swapping pins, or usually footprints are like something what everyone has to go through and find out, like, oh, next time I need to be careful about this. But I think the probably biggest problem what I found in the company was that we had no system in uh, in how to store the projects, for example,
Mhm.
and we had no versioning. We just kept working on the current project, and it was it was very difficult. I
Painful.
remember the time, when I sent PCB version 1 to production, and I continued working on same board. And when I received PCB back, I had no documentation to the version
Mm.
1 because I already changed it. So I learned, like, oh, always when you finish a version, freeze it, store it somewhere so you know what you send to production.
Right. Which version is it?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, my years in the PCB fabrication and assembly side, that was one thing because I had left the industry for a little more than a decade and then came back. And when I left, people still had like physical blueprints and versions. And when I came back, of course, everything was electronic and they just send us the Gerber files. And maybe if we were lucky, they'd send a README file. And I'm like, what surface finish, what tolerances, what IPC spec, and so we'd have to go back and I'm like, why is this happening, right? And there seems to, Ben, you and I were talking about this the other day, that there was this weird transition time where people used to be like, say, draftsmen that learned how to become, kind of, we call it tribal knowledge, right? They learned by doing, but those people started to sort of retire, age out. And then EEs, who typically were just doing circuit design, started taking on the board layout. Did that happen? I mean, that's what I observed happening in the US. Did you see that happening in Europe and other areas as well?
Mm, I don't know. I only work like in two companies,
Mm,
and right now, I don't see how other companies are doing all this
yes.
by themselves.
Yeah.
But exactly what you mentioned, for example, about this, they just send the Gerber files. That's
Yeah.
exactly what we were doing, and it's
Yeah.
because we had no process. We had no idea how PCB is manufactured. We had no idea
Yeah.
how boards are built, and this was. I think this is something what every hardware design engineer should go through. They should go and visit PCB factory. They should go and visit assembly house. So they know how everything is done, and then they can mm, they know exactly why they should, for example, send them specific files or nodes or this.
Yes. I have been telling design engineers, whoever will listen to me, saying, go to your board shop, go to your board shop. In fact, somebody mentioned that on LinkedIn recently. Judy Warner says you go to the book shop. I'm like, yes, you listened. But it's interesting to hear you say that as a hardware designer. So it sounds like you went through a painful kind of learning on the job, kind of situation. How did you decide after trying to freelance and realize that wasn't a good fit for you? How did you realize that you could help other engineers maybe make that learning curve less painful and help teach them through how did you get there from hardware designer to I want to teach other people? What was the point at which you connected the two together?
So, as I mentioned before, it was kind of by accident because when I decided to become a freelancer, I had to write a blog. I had to
I see.
start doing videos, uh, so I could find new clients.
I
And
see.
basically, what happened once you start posting some content out, you will receive a lot of questions back,
Yes.
and uh, and many times these questions they were like very similar or exactly the same.
I see.
So what I did, I decided to create a form like um, Excel, not Excel, Google form, something like that. It was
Got
exactly
it.
Google form actually,
Right.
and I described like I would like to create this kind of course, which is going to cover answers to all your questions. And if you are interested, leave your email. Tell me if you would like to pay or how much you would like to pay. And when the course is finished, I will send you email. And I told I told these people like if 100 people signed up who are willing to pay $100, then I will make the course because then it would cover my
Your
expenses.
cost. Mhm.
Yeah, because I had to do freelance. I had to keep making money. So when I will
Of
be doing
course.
a course, I had to get the money back. And actually, like 200 people filled this form who
Wow.
were willing to pay $100. So I had to do it, and then uh, I think I told this couple of times before. Like when I published this course online, it was like very exciting because I just could see like on my PayPal account like going like 500, 1,000, 2,000 in one day, and I
Wow.
was like, first I was like, oh, that's cool, and then when there was like I don't know 5,000 and more, I was like, oh, what if they don't like the course, and what if I have to send all the money back, and people will start complaining. So it was also kind of stress, but
Yeah.
people liked the course, and I was like, oh, maybe there is opportunity, what I could try, and that's how I actually started teaching people.
That's a great story. And you and I, it's funny, the more I get to know you and hear about your journey, the more I see so many crossovers because I was selling printed circuit boards for the RF and microwave industry. And I realized really intelligent RF designers were moving into doing their own board design, and there was a lot they didn't know. And so I went on LinkedIn in the Microwave Journal group and I said, hey, everyone, I'm going to write an article about best practices for like design for manufacturing because I'm getting lots of boards that are designed but they can't be built. And I said, what would you like to learn about? And in that thread 63 people answered and I was like, whoa, okay, this is a need. And then the publisher of Microwave Journal, Pat Hindle, which by the way, Signal Integrity Journal, Horizon House owns um, both Microwave Journal and Signal Integrity Journal. And so we became friends, and Signal Integrity Journal is now a podcast sponsor. So shout out to them and thank you. So Pat said, Ding dong. I don't think this is one article. I think it's a series. And so I called him up and he said, "You want to do a guest blog on Microwave Journal's website?" I'm like, "I don't feel like I can, but okay." And it actually ended up being popular. And that's how I started blogging. So you and I have similar, it was never by accident. I always call myself the accidental marketer. You are the accidental, you're the accidental hardware teacher.
I
Um,
actually wanted to do. I wanted to design software. When I
oh,
left the company, my when I left my daily job, I wanted to program a website and make money from websites. I really didn't want to design boards, but actually, a friend of mine, he asked me like, "Oh, I have this client and they need this small board." And it was not small board,
I
like
see.
processor, memories, and everything. Okay, I will help you. Okay, I will do it for and then like for 2 years, I've been actually freelancing and doing PCB layout, and even I didn't want to do it.
Do you think that helped you, though, get more experience and prepare you for the training that you would ultimately provide?
Uh, it was a very good experience.
Yeah,
Uh, I think it helped me to understand how I would like to model my business in future,
I see.
because when I was doing freelancing, I could make more money than what I was doing before, a little bit more money. Uh, but when I was not working, I was not
Mhm.
making money. And it was like
Right,
super difficult because,
right.
you go on holiday and you are thinking like, oh, I just wasted so much money and I didn't make anything. And then, oh, I really hope I'm not going to be sick, because when you are sick, you are
Yeah,
not making money. And then this is what helped me, like, oh, maybe I should come up with some idea. I always say it like this: uh, I should come up with an idea which, when I go to bed and I check my bank account, and when I wake up and I check my bank account, there will be more money. So
right.
when
But
this opportunity with courses come up, I was like, oh, this
yes.
may be the way which I could go.
So what year did you start recording those courses?
Why
No, what year? How long ago
oh
was
yeah,
that?
2013.
2013.
Yeah.
So you've been at it for almost a decade now. I remember when I first started seeing your content, those courses were on, I think, Udemy. So I think it'd be interesting for our listeners that don't know about Fedevel. So Robert and I are connected on LinkedIn, and we've done some work in the past together around his teaching. But when so you saw the bank account going up and that people were liking it, and then you started creating those courses, right? Which will allow you to go on vacation or get sick. Like what was the initial response as you started putting out more um, professional curated courses? I think on Udemy is where you started. What was the
Mm.
response and what was your audience size like?
So I would like to correct a little bit. I didn't start on
Okay.
Udemy. Uh,
Oh, okay.
I created my own platform. Initial, I don't think, I'm not
Oh,
sure
in the
even if
beginning you
Udemy
did.
was available at that time.
Okay.
Uh, so I created my own platform,
Oh, I didn't know
and
that.
basically I use Udemy. I still use Udemy just to promote,
I
and
see.
I only have there one course because Udemy is super cheap. It means, even it looks like maybe uh, you sell courses for, I don't know, $100 or something. They never sell
Right.
courses for $100. They sell courses for $10 usually, and they
Oh,
take a lot. So normally you get like $4 per sale on Udemy.
wow.
And so that's the reason why I didn't want to put there my courses, only the cheapest one, because, for example, the advanced PCB layout course, it costed me like $100,000 to record it, and you would never get like, you know,
Yeah.
even cover the expenses.
Right.
And some people may ask like, why it should be or why it can be so expensive. Yeah, so I'm going to explain a little bit. So
Okay.
because I wanted a really good advanced PCB layout course, we had to design a board. You can't just take someone else's board and
Right.
teach about it because of the
Yeah.
intellectual
The
property.
IP. Right.
Yeah, and also we wanted to go through the whole process of designing so we could
Uh-huh.
teach it better.
Right.
So, and it took like 1 year, and I had to pay someone else to actually help me with this. And then you have to go, you have to build it. Building this board is like, I don't know, $10,000 just for
Mm.
PCBs. It was 5,000 for module. There are actually two boards in this project. So you have to build it. You have to go to test house. So you need to be sure what you are going to teach about is really well designed.
Right.
This costs money. It really was like $100,000. And I I wanted to point out this because sometimes people think like you just sit down, you hit record, and you blah 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 blah, and then you ask for $100. No, no,
Yeah.
that's not how it works when you
Right.
try to do your best.
But I think that's part of why people like the quality of what you're doing because it's truly like step by step with a custom board that you design and you'd already worked out all of that. And so I think it contributes to the originality and the quality of the content. So what was your back to my question about like what was your following like early on? Like I know you said people answer on the phone on the form,
Hmm.
say 200 and you saw your bank account going up, but when you first said, "Okay, I'm going to provide professional training," like what was your audience size like, in that
Uh,
first year or two?
mhm. It was much easier in 2013, or I think I started this in 2010 when I left my daily job. It was much easier because there was not so many YouTube videos, and it was still the blog era. So uh, I think I didn't have like many. It was like maybe a couple of thousand, but they were all these people. They were very active because there was not much information about what I was sharing.
Yeah.
Uh, the I think that's one of the biggest problems that now it is a little bit better. But when people work in big companies on expensive projects, very often they can't share the knowledge. And then problem is when someone who is leaving university or junior engineers, they have like really lot of problems to actually learn to become better because sometimes the senior engineers they don't want to tell them, or they don't have way to access to these people who already know how to do it.
Right.
And I think that's why I was able to actually get these 200 people because there was not much information about doing these high speed designs.
Yeah, and I think that's so valuable, and I've actually talked to people on the industry side, say for the US defense primes, and they're I mean, it's a hot job market for either high-speed digital, and then also particularly people now that understand SI, signal integrity, power integrity, EMI, they can't find the people because what they wanna do is hire people that have some hands-on experience, but the universities aren't teaching it. So I think your courses help fill that gap a little bit. And you
I
also
hope.
certify with your training. So for those listeners, I'll link all of Robert's materials in the show notes for our listener and for our audience, because I will share his YouTube channel with you, but also Fedevel Academy, where you can go look at his stuff. But while I was
Thank
preparing
you.
for this podcast, I hadn't looked at it for a while. So tell our listeners, at the risk of embarrassing you, Robert, because you're very humble, what are the numbers of students you've put through your courses, and what's your following like on YouTube these days?
So I don't know exactly how many people bought the courses. It is in thousands, but we never really counted exactly because we had a couple of platforms as we moved, and it always
Right.
keep changing. But yeah, on YouTube it's getting better, but I think it's harder. So I'm not sure if someone is interested to know about this, but as you know, I started doing videos about Altium. That's how I started, and it's a very
And that's how we
specific
met.
topic. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And little bit later, I found out it's very specific topic. So there is like a very big group of engineers, but only like very small group are Altium designer users. So for a very long time, even I was trying, I had like 20,000 subscribers on YouTube, and I couldn't grow bigger. And then I found out, oh, it's maybe because of these limitations of the Altium.
Mm-hmm.
So I started doing like more generic videos, which could help also people who are using different tools.
Yes.
And that's what I'm trying to do now. And it,
Mm-hmm.
as I say, it's getting better. And yeah, I've got almost 80,000 subscribers, but I I'm not sure if it's like a lot or not. I don't know. I would like to get
It's a
100,000.
lot because you're teaching PCB design. Like you're the only one in the world to me that is doing this and doing it effectively. But I think your unique experience is that is so similar to most design engineers that I meet. Like they just get thrown into the fire. Now, the ones that I've noticed, Robert, and I don't know if you've had experience with this, the students I've worked with that are on engineering teams, like with the SAE doing like solar cars or hyperloop pods or rockets, they throw themselves into the fire at university and then they get hired really quickly because they're doing more complex work. But I think you're unique because you've gone this journey exactly like a lot of hardware engineers have
Thank
gone,
you.
and you've done this well.
I would like to
So
go back to these subscribers because
okay.
I'm sorry for interrupting you, but
No,
I would
please.
like to make it clear that for me, okay, subscribers are important, but I'm going to explain why. It's not because I would like to be popular,
I
but
understand.
to make better videos,
Yes.
you need numbers because that's what is helping me to be able to talk to experts and companies because otherwise they
Yes.
would not talk to me.
Right.
And this is what I always try to tell people to subscribe because without them, without these
Right.
subscriptions, I can't make better videos.
Yes. Yes. And I am just dipping my feet into this entrepreneurial world, excuse me, into this entrepreneurial world. And I'm finding out quickly that I'm really grateful that early on a few companies have trusted me to sponsor the podcast because I have to pay for production and buy a nice Shure microphone and lighting and all of those things, right? And I can only do that with the help of companies like Keysight, Transline, and Signal Integrity Journal. And there's others that are interested. So I have a different business model. In your business model, you need those subscribers and you need ways to monetize so you can keep doing it. And
Exactly.
it's not like in the beginning it's really out of passion and wanting to truly bring value, but it takes a minute to be profitable doing that. But I think you and I share this passion for helping, people suffer, right? This is hard to go through and to see people. It feels sometimes like unnecessarily going through, like you said earlier, it's like they kept asking the same question. So, how do we, in a scalable way, help point engineers to solutions? Oh, I let me go back too. So when I talk to, say, or learn from someone at Northrop Grumman, what they're asking for, which is sort of like you, they would like engineers to have some experience with software, PCBs. They also want them to be able to make a good slide deck, be able to work as a team, and all of these things, because they have certain criteria and they know when they hire that candidate, they'll be productive in 6 months instead of a year and a half. And the production cycle is so fast, and rigorous, and the speeds and frequencies are going up. So they need them to jump in and be productive. They can't take a whole bunch of time training somebody on the job. And as you mentioned, senior hardware engineers, for whatever reason, one, I think they're just too dang busy
Exactly.
um, to stop and
And they
help.
are also expensive. Who
Yeah,
it's going to be more expensive than, I don't know.
yeah,
Mm,
you bet. And so again, I think that's a place where you're really filling the gap. And I don't do that by teaching. I do that by connecting people to the industry and resources as fast as I can. So you and I are doing it in different ways, but I think we share that idea. Like, let's take some of that pain away of that learning curve. Um, Again, for our audience, make sure to check the show notes. I put links to all of Robert's sites below. I think you'll really enjoy it. Some of it is free, some of it is paid. Um, And so, anyways, make sure you go check out the show notes to access all that. I think you'll really enjoy it. Um, so, during COVID, so let's fast forward to now. During COVID, did you see any unusual, like maybe more online training because people were at home, or like what happened to you in your business in this last 2.5 years?
mm, I think there was not really
Mm,
much change. Maybe what I've seen is people more interested about how to work in cloud and from different places, and trying to figure out how to manage libraries properly, because now libraries are somewhere in the office but they work from home. And
yeah.
so this is maybe, I think, what I've seen during the COVID. But i
Yeah.
i don't think there was like higher demand on watching online courses or something.
Okay. Yeah, the online libraries was something I saw too, like, "Oh, shoot." Especially if it's a really secure library that unless they can have a secure VPN or whatever, they were trying to figure that out. Um, so let's talk a little bit about just overall across the industry, what you think, and not just your company, like other places that are maybe offering hardware design and development, education. Um, we've talked about what may have caused some of that demand is because it was missing. There was a gap, right? Um, as you fast forward from when you started, say 2010, what kind of trends have you noticed? Where do you see, besides Fedevel, maybe places where the industry as a whole is beginning to bring forward professional training? I mean, training for professional design engineers.
uh, okay, so I think, like in 2010 up to 2015, it was still kind of possible to mm, design even complex boards based on some rules. You even didn't need to like understand too much what is really happening.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've seen, like maybe from 2015 or 16 changing, is there are these higher and higher speed interfaces. And
Yeah.
now it's becoming more and more important to actually know what you are doing, to understand how these signals are going to travel, why you should place their vias, or how you should properly route the tracks, uh, and why. Because when it was a little bit slower, then your board could work even if you made a couple of not
Right.
very optimal decisions.
Right.
But as going like to these higher frequencies is going to be more important to do it right. And uh, and that's what I see. Like, I think now it's higher demand to understand what is really happening. Not maybe only like, oh, I would like to learn high speed design or something. So you
Mm-hmm.
tell people like, okay, do it like this, use this gap and space, use this track, do this length matching or something. But they also would like to understand why
Right.
they should be doing it this way,
Right.
and they need to understand why they should be
Yeah.
doing it this way.
Yes.
So what was
Understand the
enough?
principles and the guidelines, not just,
Exactly.
oh, go do this and don't know why you're doing this. And
But it used
sometimes
to
you'll get,
work.
yeah,
It
well,
used to
it used
work.
to work. And then you'll apply the principles that you were using before successfully, and all of a sudden something breaks and you don't know why. And then you're like, shoot. So to understand those principles to me is super important, right? In which I think, so go on about where you think engineers are learning some of these principles besides Fedevel Academy.
I try to make videos on these topics. I really hope.
Yes.
I don't want to like advertisement my YouTube videos, but uh, I have this great opportunity to talk to very clever people, and I know some comments under my videos. They say like, "Oh, this video is too long because it's 1.5 hours." But I think that's the difference. Like, some people, they just would like to know how to do it. Yeah, what is the
Right.
results? But there is, and you can make 10-minute video on this, or even 5-minute
Right.
video,
Right.
but you will not understand the essentials, what is really happening, and you really need
Right.
1.5 hour long video
Yes.
to explain what is happening
Yes.
there. So that's what I'm trying to do now. I know other people, they also create YouTube videos on very advanced topics, but I'm consider myself being very lucky that some of my videos, they actually also get views. So really the engineers what needs these videos, they really watch them. Sometimes happen that YouTube algorithm, if you are like very small, or if you have a very small
Mhm.
channel,
Yes.
you can be like really good expert. You can create really great video, but if YouTube will decide that
Yeah.
it's not going to promote the video, then
Absolutely.
people are not going to watch it, and that's what is like very very sad. And that's why I consider
Yes.
myself to be like very lucky, because YouTube algorithms sometimes like find people to watch my videos.
Well, but I think you started at a really good time too, because now I feel like everybody's trying YouTube and the algorithms change all the time and we don't know what that means exactly. And you have an audience, so they want to promote what's known good content too. So you're in that lane, which is pretty exciting.
But it's
Um,
still
Go ahead.
shall I? Okay, it's still complicated, because I need to point out that now there are first, there are many professionals, like professional studios are making YouTube videos. So I'm not a professional, and I need to compete with these kind of production teams, yeah, what are creating these videos. And plus, um, YouTube makes money on advertisement, so they promote mostly the kind of videos which will make them money, and educational videos are not on the top of their list.
I see.
So that's like second really big problem in making YouTube videos.
Right. Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic, and it's not an easy one. Well, some trends I notice, it's like, and again, for listeners, go check out Robert's stuff. I think you'll gain so much. And not only that, one thing that impressed me about your network, Robert, is all the engagement you get. People talk back, and not everybody has that, including moi, because I'm usually just pointing to something else. You're teaching them something really concrete and valuable. And you've really built an engaged community. And I know that feedback you're getting helps you to create better, well-tuned content. But I don't know anyone that's really successful in this space. However, what I have noticed is even the sponsors that I mentioned of the show, one reason I chose them and we're working together is because they create a lot of educational content. Like I did videos with Rogers last week and Eric Bogatin, which he's you know, the whole Signal Integrity Academy and everything he's taught for years, because he teaches principles and then he measures to prove. And then Rogers did a thing last week. They have huge technical resources. So does Keysight. Transline is my new one. Signal Integrity Journal is full time, providing either for free. So I see companies realizing, oh, shoot, I think they use it as a marketing channel, but I feel like since you started to now, the quality of technical educations that companies are offering seem to be a little more valuable. And of course, they want to sell their products, but they don't seem as promotional. It depends on who it is, right? And so I've appreciated these companies are investing and realizing there's an opportunity to educate. So that's one thing I've observed over the last, say, 5 to 8 years is companies are realizing, oh, shoot, we need to do this. And again, they use it as a marketing channel. Let's not pretend that's not happening. It is, but I think the quality of it's better. So,
It's same for me. I also use it for marketing. Otherwise,
right, right. Of course we
how
do.
I would be selling courses, and if
Well,
I don't sell courses, then I can't make free videos. It's all
right.
connected together.
Yeah, exactly. But again, the winner seems to be the hardware engineer, and you can't make videos without having revenue. So I think that's okay. I think everybody understands that. I know that IPC has also started, putting more investment into their educational resources. PCEA is a group that is trying to provide a community and more. So I feel like more and more people are realizing it. I just think you were way ahead of the curve, and I think you represent what most designers go through, that painful learning curve. So I think you can relate to them because you've taken you came from the school of hard knocks. You learned by doing, and I think that's a big reason. Plus, you're humble and you're
I
kind,
don't know.
and yes, you are. I can say it. You don't have to say it about yourself. And I think really people appreciate that you're authentic and kind and humble, and you're giving really a lot of value. And I think people appreciate that about you. Um, so when we were talking earlier, the thing that really made me want to have you on and share you with the ecosystem community is we talked a little bit about Udemy, but I know over the last 4 years or so, you have built your own Fedevel platform. So can you talk? I mean, I don't want to. Let's talk about whatever you can talk about, or you want to talk about that platform, sort of what it is, why you did it, And then after that, let's talk a little bit about where you're going with it. So first of all, your own platform. Why'd you do that and not just use I get that Udemy was taking a lot of the profit, but what else made you think, cuz that's hard to build your own platform. So what made you want to do that?
Several reasons. uh, of course, one of the reasons are money. But
Of course.
I'm not
Right.
going to talk about that side. I think everyone knows this. But mm, I've seen opportunity because when I was starting with teaching online, I I didn't want to use, for example, different platform because I wanted to build my own brand. I wanted
Yes.
people to go to my own website,
Mhm.
and so I wanted my own space
Yes.
with the courses. And once we had this for myself, so I had no reason to actually create the platform the way that also other people could use the platform same way as I do it. So
Mhm.
this was like second reason to give opportunity other people to sell online courses under their own brands.
Mhm.
And then I wanted to create a place where where all these mm, you call it industry experts, but all these clever people who already have the knowledge could
Yes.
actually share it in one place. Because I talked to different people, Steve Sandler, Eric Bogatin, and all these people, Keith Armstrong, and Min Hang, and other people, and many of them they are already doing this,
Yeah.
but everyone is doing this by themselves, and it's like super hard to you know sell these courses. It's super hard to find people who are going to buy it, and very often this can be exactly same people who buy courses from Eric Bogatin can also buy courses from Steve Sandler because they teach about different things. So
Right.
why don't create one place where
I
people
see.
can go and just buy courses from all people, so all these experts, so they don't have to everyone doesn't have to
Mhm.
look for their own audience, and they can focus on what they do the best and not doing marketing or something.
Right.
So that's like my mm, biggest vision how this platform should work. So everyone who would like to learn about embedded systems, programming, hardware, then they just would go on one place, and there would be all the professional courses from these experts to learn. But that's far away. I'm not there yet.
Well, you're lots closer. So for our audience, Robert gave me a little sneak peek, behind the curtain a little bit. And that is 100% why I needed to have him on today. Because again, I my goal here is to help educate, connect, and equip you. And this is a great platform, even though it's like having making your own piece of art. You're never happy with it exactly, but I'm telling you, it's it's really a great central place to go. And actually, I'll add that to the show notes too. I actually podcasted with Steve Sandler last week and we mentioned it, but I'll make sure to put that link below. That is so nice. You can go to one place, and I assume you'll make it searchable, like signal integrity or power integrity, or how will people search that, or is that something you're
Yeah.
still working on?
So right now we only have a couple of courses, but I
Uh huh.
think, for example, very interesting are like EMC courses. Then
Mm-hmm.
Steve has the course about how to measure. I was like very surprised. I watched their courses.
Yeah.
Okay, not all the content because it will
Yes.
take a long time, but I was very surprised, like how complicated it can be actually learn to properly use scope, yeah, and understand what is on the scope and if you are doing it right, if you are really measuring the signal what is on the board.
Right.
So these are the courses what I have there right now. Eric is doing the signal integrity, but they have their own place. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Speaking of which, sorry, shameless plug here. Um, I have to do this because we're talking about Eric. On the ecosystem website, which will be linked below, Eric and Teledyne LaCroix gave us a free download that you can go get there and you can sign up for our community, our newsletter, but they'll give you Eric's book. So thank you to Eric and Teledyne LaCroix. You can get 90 free days of Signal Integrity Academy, which is like over 200 hours of Eric Bogatin's for free. And then you can download his 100 plus PCB design guidelines, which is what we're talking about, to minimize signal integrity. So sorry for the commercial, but I want you to go get that. And we're going to keep putting good stuff, and we're going to keep putting, you know, Robert and I are trying to figure out how we combine forces so I can get you plugged in to that, but we're still figuring that out. Okay, sorry for the commercial. Yeah, so Eric, Steve, so much good, but you have a few courses now. You're going to be building it out more. What else are you doing, or whatever you can tell us? I'm sure you don't want to tell us stuff you're in the middle of, but what else? You've explained this is your vision of having a central place where you can go search. So it's not just Robert Feranec's materials, it's these experts that have spent decades learning how to use a scope properly, measure properly. You know, what else? What else are you working on?
uh, YouTube videos are taking me a lot of time. I don't really have much time to do anything else. Uh, Running the company is taking,
Yes,
I don't know, quarter of my time, and 75% is YouTube.
I see.
Uh, Again, I think some people they don't realize how much work it actually is. But my wife, she was just telling me the other day, like, why don't you record in your office, in our house? We can do nothing. We have to be quiet. I can't listen my TV. And so basically, always, very often when I go back from work, because I'm currently in Europe, then I recording in the evening. So I just work all day and then I'm recording in the evening. So it's like, and then when I record, for example, interview, then I go back to work and I have to go through all the materials, cut them down, prepare the video, and it's never-ending story. But I really enjoy it because, especially these interviews, I learn a lot, and
Yeah, me
and
too.
and I'm so happy that I can make these videos with all these people, and I can ask them all the questions what I what I really wanted to know the right
Yes,
answer, and
yes, I agree. Like, I benefit and learn more talking to these people, and I'm not a hardware engineer, so I think those conversations, being able to ask, I try to ask those questions, but I think really, in some ways, you're more equipped because you're a hands-on engineer. But I love those conversations. I learn something in every conversation, and
yeah.
so Steve Sandler says I'm an engineer by osmosis. And probably.
Uh,
Um,
I'm
and
not very
I understand.
clever. I'm not very clever. That's why I have so many questions which are not very
Well,
sophisticated.
well, we all like we stand on all of these people's shoulders, and it's great that we're here, and it's actually great that we share them, with the design engineer community. So I love that. Let me see what else I wanted to ask you about. Okay, here it goes. Where do you see online education going, say, in the next 5 years?
Mm,
I gotcha, didn't I?
I think
That's a big question.
yeah, on I think on one side, I see even like universities doing and moving or doing some activities in online space. So
Mhm.
this is, I think, something what will keep growing. So they will have the on-site classes, and they will also do these online trainings or online classes. And then I see more and more people are interested to make some extra money on doing these classes and share their experience. But
Yeah.
it's not so easy as
Mm-mm.
sometimes they find out it's like very difficult,
Yeah.
and they just go away from this.
Yeah.
And about students, uh, I think because of the COVID, it become kind of like normal to use PC for education, and
Mhm.
uh, and if I think if there are good courses and if there are good instructors, people will buy these courses because they will be cheaper than maybe universities, and they still can learn a lot, and it can help them to maybe get better job, and not only get better job but maybe also get better in their jobs. So I
Absolutely.
think it's going to be it's going to grow.
Yeah. I agree with you, and I do agree, um, that it's been a trend for a while. I just think COVID sped it up
Hmm.
because we were forced to go online to do work and learning. And engineers, I mean, you talked about high speed, high frequency, how the rules of thumb and the principles are changing as the speeds and frequency go up. And so it's not even optional anymore. So, and that is, I don't think so readily available even in the workplace.
That's
So,
very good point. Exactly, I was thinking about this. That there is maybe not like you can have in-person training or you can have online training. Very often, maybe what can happen, you can't really get all this information or any learn this in your job because it may be something new what your boss
right.
asks you to do, or because your company would like to design new, better, more high-speed boards or something, so you have to learn it.
Well, I know that you do something that I agree with, and this is also really transformed, I think, during COVID is, say, with in-person events, there was a big chunk of people that were left out because maybe they work for a small company or they're a freelancer and they didn't have a budget, or they work for a company and they couldn't get budget, or they couldn't travel, or they couldn't take time off, or and now the rise of online events out of necessity, those numbers of people that were able to attend, I think we open that up to help people develop their skills where normally they would have a variety of things would prevent them from going, right? And, personal or professional constraints. And now I feel like we've widened the scope of what we can offer people. And I like that. The
And cheaper.
altruistic, the altruistic, purposeful part of me likes that we're allowing more people to access that. I think it's still, you were at Embedded World last week.
Yeah.
I was at IMS in Denver. Tell us real quick. I don't want to take a lot of time on this, but what was your sense of the attendance at Embedded World and just people getting back to live events?
Super cool. It was super cool. I When I went there, I really didn't know what to expect, but it was exactly as it used to be before COVID. And yeah, of course, much more people already knew about me, and so I had a lot of fun. And I met so many great people, and we chat, and so it was like super interesting.
Yeah, IMS was sort of the same way. I hadn't been to IMS in a long time because I was in a different market segment, but I spent about 10 years as part of that community. But it was, they had an event last year, but I knew it was only about 25-30% of their normal attendance. But this year, it wasn't 100%, but it felt like it was 100%. And everybody was like they'd seen their long lost friends, including me. Like, I hadn't seen these people in
2 years,
probably 7 years.
7.
And so it was like a giant reunion. So I can't imagine with how you've grown even in the last couple of years. People's like, "It's Robert." So, and it is, and people are so nice, and so there still is a place for that. Whenever you can go, I would highly recommend it. I'm sure you would too. But the scalability of online education, including universities, I think is a real opportunity that we've all learned together. And I think it makes the community bigger because we can include more people. And I like that.
I agree.
That was, yeah. Um, okay. Now let's leave something with the people that have listened or watched this conversation. So if you could give a couple tips to a brand new PCB designer or hardware engineer, in the first 1 to 3 years of their career, looking back on your whole journey, what tips would you give them?
Mm, I think it would depend if they are like finishing university and maybe going to
Mm,
look for a new job. So for these uh, people, I really would highly recommend to work on projects. So they can come up with their own projects or they can join existing open source projects or something, but
mm,
work on projects because when you will be looking for a job, you can say like, oh, this is the project I was working on, and it's
yes.
not only telling about you that you really like doing electronics and all these things because you are doing this in your own time, but you are also motivated doing this. So it's like
Yeah.
very, very good. These are very good points which you can get when you show your own projects during job interviews. And if you are preparing for a new job, or if you are just starting a new job, then I think it's super important to understand the processes, what I was talking about a little bit earlier, which we didn't have when I was starting. Uh, I see many people when they are starting with hardware design, they don't think this is important. And when I say processes, it's, for example, board release procedure. Like these are the steps which you need to follow when you are releasing a board. Some people say, I don't need this. I will remember it. You will not remember it. There are many steps, and you
Mm,
really don't want to miss any of these steps when you are releasing your expensive boards. Okay, and if you miss these steps, you can make mistakes, and then your boss will be like, "Oh, your design is bad. You don't want to do it this way."
yeah.
And again, when I'm talking about processes, is also how you keep your projects tied up. Like you need to be able to go back and find a specific version. You need to be able to find data sheets. You need to be able to find specific schematic. All these things very quickly. You need to find it, and this is something what when you are starting with hardware design you ignore it because you think hardware design is about creating schematic. It's not only about creating schematic. Creating
Right.
schematic is this small part of developing boards. Yeah. So I think these are kind of tips what I would like to say. Uh, and right now maybe it's it's even easier for everyone to start, because when I was starting in 2010, 2000, oh, 2010, no, in 2000, it was very long time ago.
Yeah.
So when I was starting in 2000 or 2002, then there was not much information on internet, so I couldn't find a
Yeah.
video which was explaining why, I don't know, uh, it's good to have stitching vias or something like this.
Right.
But now go on internet. You don't have to watch my YouTube channel, okay? If you think you can find better sources, go there and find these kind of videos, so you understand why you are doing some of these things, why it is important, how it works. Then you will become better hardware design engineer once you understand how it works. Okay, so I think, yeah, this is what I would recommend.
Those are really good tips. The thing I would add to what you were just saying, go online and find it. There's also junk out there. So and so I would say watch maybe multiple sources and you'll see the good stuff. You'll see it over and over again. Um, so be careful that you just watch one and go out and apply it.
Hmm. I
And
agree.
I think that's why Robert and I think both do this where we get the experts and we try to curate good sound knowledge because, as you know, you can take a bad idea and integrate it, and it might work for a little bit or one design, and then you don't know. Oh, why did it work that time and not this time? And so, take the time to check multiple sources because
I completely forgot about this, because I don't really watch like many other videos about hardware design. I don't want to get influence from
and
them.
there's articles. And then
But
Google's rewarded them because they're old. And then it's like, oh, bad idea. That applied back then, not now. And so you'll see people infighting. And I'm like, guy, if I was just starting out, how would I know who's right?
mhm,
Well, I try to find really good sound sources, but I'd also check that you're hearing the same thing from several, not just one YouTube or one article, and I think really good trade journals like Signal Integrity Journal, where they peer review it, that's always so good.
mhm.
Um, so,
Yeah,
anyways, that's my
yeah,
addition to your thought.
yeah. I think there are like maybe two different, or there may be like two different kind of videos what to be careful about. As you mentioned, maybe older videos.
Yes.
I learned so much stuff in the older days what I had to unlearn, how Eric would say.
Yeah. Let's not do
and
that.
and then second thing is, there are many people who would like to promote themselves, same as what I'm
Yeah.
doing, what everyone is doing, but sometimes they are like super young, they don't really have like
Yeah.
much experience,
Yeah.
and they try to make this kind of professional videos, even if they are not like completely sure maybe what may be right. So yeah,
Yeah.
maybe watch a couple of videos and then come up with your own mm, your own opinion what is probably
Right.
right. But I would like to also say, even now there are people and experts, and they don't agree between themselves.
The other thing I would say, I would add to that is don't be afraid to read, even some older stuff, right? That are principle led. I try to put up, like Eric Bogatin's author page on Amazon or Steve Sandler's author page. When I find people that have published and is pretty widely accepted, or it's gone under the scrutiny of peers, then I try to put those things out. Um, so I would recommend that too, because then you get more of those principles underneath. So that's another tip. And we'll keep sharing that stuff with you. So, Robert, thank you so much for sharing your fascinating journey. Congratulations on everything you've done on Fedevel. And I think you've worked really hard to make it quality and accurate. And I think you've learned the hard way, and then you're generously giving that away and building a business, of course, that has just been so helpful to so many. So I really appreciate you, and I thank you for coming on the podcast today. And I look forward to staying in touch. And I hope you'll come back again as you develop more courses and things on the Fedevel Academy website.
Thank you very much, Judy, and I would like to thank you very much to you for watching, or everyone for watching. And yeah, I wanted to just add, even I'm learning every day. So yeah, don't stop learning new things. Sometimes it may be embarrassing, like I said something 3 years ago and it's not true anymore. But yeah, that's how it goes. So thank you, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Again, to our listeners, I've put loads of good stuff in the show notes for you, including Robert's LinkedIn profile, all his YouTube videos, Fedevel Academy. And so please go take a look at that and support Robert because he's doing amazing things. And we'll be sure to have him back when he's got more courses online from other experts. And we'll keep bringing you, and updating you on this so you can continue a really good sound education. I hope you've enjoyed this show. We will see you next time. Until then, remember to always stay connected to the ecosystem.